need to be afraid. At Christmas time, we let in light and we banish shade. And in our world of plenty, we can plant a smile of joy. Throw your arms around the world at Christmas time. But say a prayer to pray for the other world at Christmas time. It's hard, but when you're having fun, there's a world outside your window, and it's the world of plenty.
I would imagine that because people bought 2 records and an LP and T-shirts and books and went to a concert and looked at the tribute, without doubt they are responsible for keeping hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people alive.
Live Aid, the most successful charity event ever, the target famine, the inspiration and driving force, Bob Geldof.
Russia's doing an appeal. France do nothing ever. They're doing an appeal.
Tokyo, South America, Australia, France, Germany, UK, Africa.
I would like Mr. Reagan to win the award himself next year, which he could quite easily do by doubling, tripling his aid budget, and then he'd deserve it. He'd deserve it a lot more than we would. Maybe he should be brave and take the step. I want it not to be a passive experience. I want it to be active. In other words, I want people to contribute money.
Listen, there's Life Day boxes all along up this street now in all the stores. So if you've got a couple of boxes, stick the money in.
Don't go to the pub tonight, please. Stay in and give us the money. There are people dying now. We just got £1 million from the Dubai. Most of you in this cathedral probably gave something. Those of you who didn't should be ashamed of yourselves.
But we're just chatting, and we all have to wait.
I have been called a loudmouth and a bore, pompous and arrogant and persuasive. And all those things come out of opening my mouth too often, too much, and too vehemently.
But don't forget,
there are millions dying, and that's a terrible thing.
Indeed.
Sing it to the world!
So, with £50 million of Live Aid money in his pocket and determined to make every penny of it count, Bob Geldof flies off on his mission to Africa. His journey will take him to Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, Chad, Sudan and Ethiopia. 6 countries, 15,000 miles in 15 days. Geldof swots up on the latest facts and figures of the worst famine in history. Ahead of him, drought, starvation, war, disease and poverty. First stop, Mali, where immediate impressions are deceptive. From the air, the lush green countryside surrounding the capital Bamako belies the devastation that the famine has caused elsewhere in the country.
It's very shocking to see so much food in a country like this, in the capital city, but that's part of the problem. And it does lend to the capital cities an air of indifference to the suffering of people even 10 miles away from this marketplace. Of course, it's a political thing because the government has to keep the populations of the cities content. So when the food does get in, the majority of it stays in the capital cities.
Helping those who are starving in the rural areas is the main priority of the international aid workers. They've been summoned to the capital to meet Geldof and find out how much Live Aid money they can expect.
Yeah, you only have $1 million. So you don't hit on us for all your individual projects. If we could have some basic consensus of some basic integrated plans, even though you're working at various parts of the country, the best way for us to spend our money is in displaced persons. But you tell us that this is wrong. And if it's wrong, we do, you must tell us because we don't know. We're not going to satisfy everybody. Because you disagree, some of you are going to get really pissed off and say that Band-Aid is a piece of shit. Too bad,
The meeting is inconclusive, but they do agree that the £1 million from Live Aid should be allocated to long-term development projects. The next day, Geldof flies 1,000 miles north to Timbuktu, on the edge of the Sahara. The desert is on the move. It's creeping south 20 miles every year. This river has now become man's front line in a fight for survival against nature. Thousands of gallons of water are pumped from the river into irrigation channels to transform barren waste into a giant rice paddy field. In Lawrence of Arabia style, Geldof inspects the pumping station and the extraordinary sight of rice growing in the Sahara Desert. Nothing else is harvested within 500 miles of here.
A project in Timbuktu, like you could say, a massive rice project, and that's feeding thousands of people. It needs to be expanded. It makes it even too big. Much better to have smaller ones because it breaks down. The less people are affected if it's smaller. They're beginning to learn how to settle and use agricultural methods. So you're talking about the long-term slog. You're talking about how these people get water, how will they get seed, how will they learn the whole agricultural process that it's taken us thousands of years to learn, and they have to learn it by next year.
This venture feeds 20,000 people in Timbuktu. Geldof thinks Band-Aid could feed many thousands more by sponsoring similar projects. Success in Mali, but shriveled crops in neighboring Niger. No victory here over the Sahara. It hasn't rained for 17 years. Primitive wells provide the only source of water. The temperature is 120 degrees Fahrenheit. And the water virtually evaporates as soon as it touches the ground. It fails to nourish the crops.
This well drying up. There can't be much water left in it.
The nomads have roamed the desert for centuries, but now they face extinction. Their livestock has been wiped out, and without their animals, they've been left stranded. Camel caravans are a rare and sometimes pathetic sight in the desert these days. The Niger government won't allow the nomads into the towns and cities. It says there's not enough food to go round. Geldof finds these once proud people isolated and demoralized. The authorities provide emergency rations only for the women and children. Their men have to fend for themselves.
Sad to think that these people are the lords of the desert, and this is the loss that they've been reduced to. They've tried to create gardens in the dry seasons where they can eat, but they're failing. It's probably one of the most hostile places I've ever been in my life.
Desert farming and resettlement schemes to save the nomads will get nearly £1 million of Geldof's Live Aid money. But even the hostility of the desert can't prepare Geldof for the horror of Chad, 1,000 miles to the east. It's the world's poorest country. Chad's finest hospital with open sewers reflects the plight of over 1 million people suffering because of both famine and civil war. There are not enough beds for the sick who have to sleep outside. Over a third of the nation's children don't have enough to eat.
18 months. 18 months old baby. Well, to close the hospital is, in my terms of reference, not acceptable. To see still the same pictures of horror that you see from famine everywhere, except that it's been moved to some sort of hospital. I suppose that's the difference. Usually you just see them and people dying in fields and that. That might indicate some sort of change, but certainly the hospital in Chad is, I think, the best illustration of how infrastructures break down when you have famine and war simultaneously. It was a terrific, it's the usual. Children this size, 2 years old, grandmothers looking after them because their mothers have died, tubes up their nose. No matter how often you see it, they're terribly poorly, no matter how often you see it, you just still can't handle it. It's unacceptable. It's unacceptable that people have forgotten about sad or even know where it is, or at least are indifferent to it. That's really unacceptable. Those who've contributed money should know that the money will go to help preventing that situation. But just take Band-Aid's money, I mean, as I say, it's a lot of money to have, 50 million, but it's literally a drop in the ocean.
Next to the hospital, a river divides Chad from Cameroon. Chad's civil war means all foreign relief aid must cross the river.
One thing we've been asked to do to help in Chad is to provide a bridge to help the supplies of food from the coast up into this landlocked country. As you can see, this is the Chari River, and across the other side is Cameroon. There is no bridge across this river. The trucks stop at the Cameroons at the end of the line, and they have to take the food off, put it in the dugout, and row across this river. It's very hard to get out of the towns into the countryside because there's relatively little transport in Jamaica to get it out into the country. And that, on top of the war situation, means that no food, or very little, is coming into the country. I mean, how much food can you bring in dugouts?
The bridge is Band-Aid's most ambitious project. It will cost over £1 million, but speeding the flow of food and medicines will save countless lives. Another dawn, another country, this time Sudan. This is the first convoy of Band-Aid trucks. The critics said they'd never start rolling. They were wrong. Band-Aid now owns and operates a fleet of 70 lorries for all the international relief agencies in Sudan. They transport vital food supplies from Port Sudan on the Red Sea to Khartoum, the capital, then on to the worst affected famine regions. Band-Aid's lifeline rumbles through the night.
Transport was the main problem, and as soon as we had sold the tickets for the concert, long before the concert even started, we were buying these trucks, and if we could have bought them with the record money, we would have done so, but we weren't capable of it then, so this is what people bought. It was like wagon train. Wagon train, woo! Here they are, 1,200 tons running, and they've been running for a while. And these new ones from Kuwait, which people say won't cross the desert, have already crossed the desert. That's how they got here.
Throughout his trip, Geldof is constantly irritated, though, by red carpet treatment. The revolutionary welcome in Burkina Faso, formerly Upper Volta, is a typical example.
it bores me and embarrasses me. I was not brought up to inspect guards of honour, nor do I know how to deal with it. For me, it's a complete waste of my time to watch all these people dancing and that, which I have absolutely no interest in whatever. It's just cripplingly embarrassing anyway to have people singing dreadful songs at you. The feeling is like I'm Prince Charles, and I'm not. I mean, it must be terrible for him, you know. I mean, I'm sure he wants to see the things I want to see, but never can. But I can, and so I'm going to try and put a stop to it.
Geldof's patience finally snaps when he's invited to sing with the raised fist Little Singers. Their songs are government propaganda. So he stalks off, declaring he's not here to support the revolution, but to save lives. Next morning, vultures perch silently above the marketplace. There's no food for the villagers, and that's why the vultures are here. In a mud hut, an old man is dying of starvation, signaling desperately for food. The chance meeting has a profound effect. Geldof bristles with anger when he finds out that a mile down the road, a grain bank is full.
We just saw a man die, and I would estimate he's maybe got a week to live. Yeah.
They have emergency food for that.
Well, he hasn't. We spoke to the chief. No food.
No food.
No. Not just the 85-year-old man. There was also...
It's an example.
No, but there was also, I mean, the younger man, the chief, the children, the women didn't look very well. No. I mean, it's a famine.
About 1,800 people in this
So this is just specifically to this town.
Yeah. And this is
Here, even Geldof can't beat the local bureaucracy. The old man down the road will get none of this food sent to save lives.
Is that deep enough?
Although distressed by this experience, Geldof quickly learns that in his capacity as pop music's famine ambassador, official duties have to be performed with good grace. This time, the symbolic planting of a tree.
Right, I declare this tree planted. Yeah. Irishman goes mad in National Park. Okay? I declare this tree planted.
A symbol of hope, a moment of light relief. But the politics of famine are never far away. In Sudan, Geldof holds one of his 3 meetings with African heads of state. Sudan's new leader seized power in a bloodless coup only 6 months ago. Geldof is to receive a special award, the Order of the 2 Niles, 2nd class.
Gaddafi has just announced in Moscow that he intends to annex the rest of that. Yeah. I mean, he's not an ambitious guy, you know. And I don't know if you feel that endangers your borders with Chad or
Relations with the Libyans are quite good at the moment, and we believe it will continue to be so.
Geldof finds these meetings useful as political briefings and important for planning how to spend Band-Aid's money. But he's always influenced most by what he can find out for himself. This camp in Western Sudan is supposed to close down in 6 months' time, but over 30,000 people depend on the daily food rations to stay alive. and there are still 150 new arrivals every day.
How long has he been here? He looks extremely weak. Will he die?
If he's monitored and he receives that food, and if he doesn't get malaria or any other disease, he will survive.
You know, when you look at them, and you can see the new arrivals coming in, and they're still very, very badly malnourished, which is a word that means chronically starved. That is, you don't have anything to eat. The children in particular are very near to death, and the ones with the classic malnutrition, the droopy bottoms and the long legs and the spindly arms, but even the ones that have got better but big fat tummies, that means that they're infested with worms. Oh dear, let me see. Oh. Is it sore? Does it hurt you? What's wrong with it, does he know?
He's got spirit. That's why his arms like this.
He's got a spirit.
An evil spirit. That's why he's.
Look, I have an evil spirit in my toe. Oh, yeah. These little chaps have got no clothes and they don't have any toys, but you can see their ingenious inventiveness. It's a truck. These are the trucks that bring the food here, and you'll see some of the other guys with tiny little airplanes that the EEC bring in their food in. I think it's quite obvious that what these people want and need for Christmas are some toys and some bales of material so that the women can make their dresses, and they need some woolen clothes and they need some cotton clothes. So let's get cracking and make sure they have it.
Many of the children here are alive today because of Band-Aid. They shipped out supplies of anti-cholera drugs and saved thousands of lives throughout Sudan. The Oxfam water purification system is Band-Aid in action. Live Aid money was spent here within 2 months of the concert. Now 20,000 refugees have fresh drinking water.
Basically, it's the wadi down there, which is dry, but it's water under the ground. They're pumping that up into big chambers, which first of all cleanse the water by making the sand drop to the bottom, like they put chlorine in, and then it comes out pure water down here. There isn't necessarily the understanding of contaminated water. That's the other problem. These people haven't seen running water before. And so we're putting our culture in with them, and the twain meet with this tap.
The last country Geldof visits is Ethiopia, where the famine has claimed more victims than anywhere else. Up to 1 million people have died. Geldof is being taken to a village so remote that it's cut off from the outside world. The Canadian pilot flies him cautiously down into a deep ravine, the perilous descent he first made 3 months before. Down, down, 3,000 feet below the plateau, they drop nearer and nearer to the tiny settlement at the bottom of the canyon. The first time the pilot landed here, he found the village without food, the people starving. The second time, he brought them food and seeds to plant. Now he brings Geldof to meet the community he saved. The villagers have no idea who Geldof is, but any friend of the pilot is assured of a warm welcome. These children are lucky to be alive. The ones with their heads shaved have lost members of their families. But now they can look forward to the future with fresh hope. The seed the pilot delivered has provided a rich harvest. One crop has already been gathered in. The second is ripening. A village of hope in a land of despair. After 15 grueling days, Geldof's pilgrimage is nearly over. He's been working 20 hours a day and he's exhausted. His final destination is Coram, the refugee camp from where television pictures first moved Geldof to write the Band-Aid song.
I come out here, I think by and large, to generate my sense of outrage and despair and rage again, recharge the batteries, because you can't fail it in a place like this. You only have to look around here and say to people, look, don't let them die. Because they will die if you let the interest stop. They really will die. And last year, people died because of drought. They were dying in these camps, so they couldn't go back out and plant the seed. And because of that, there's no food this year. Now they're getting slightly better, and they'll be able to go out and plant. But there's another year's hard slog.
10 people still die in Coram camp every day. But a year ago, it was 100. Geldof's journey ends here, but Band-Aid's fight goes on. Across Africa, countless thousands are alive this year to know it's Christmas.
Actually, they're seriously wrong when a bunch of pop singers have to draw attention to problems, and I think that the question should best be addressed to politicians as to why pop musicians should have to raise issues.
It's Christmas again. Have a good New Year, goodbye.